of the key consideration whenever you are investing into property is the cash flow. Right now in 2025, if you are buying a residential real estate, then you are not getting cash flow irrespective of where you are buying. Yes, there are places where you can get $20, $50 per week extra cash flow, but that's not something which will give you financial independence. So why I am actually more advocating about commercial property is because of the cash flow. Now, when you buy a real estate, when you invest into real estate and you buy a, let's say, residential property, and there is a significant cost to weigh in and there are significant costs to even weigh out. It means like if you buy, then you need to pay stamp duty, legal fees, broker fees, application fees, and all sort of things, fees that you need to pay to the government, and then you buy that. So roughly about 5% that goes to these charges and the fees. If you buy a residential real estate today and then 10 years down the line, if you plan to sell this because it was not performing according to, which is why I am predicting that it is going to happen, the only way you can sell that property is by paying lots of tax as well. Like let's say you bought a property of 500,000 and it has gone up to 700,000. Even with 200,000, 50% capital gain tax discount you will get, but the remaining 100,000 you need to pay tax. So it's not literally you are actually getting this 200,000 gain, you are paying a lot of tax. So your cost of way in and cost of way out is there in residential. Now it is also there in commercial property, but in commercial property, once you buy, as long as it is giving you cash flow, there is no reason to sell that property. And this is the fundamental difference between residential and commercial today, that once you buy a commercial property, you can keep this property forever. You would sell a commercial property when you get a bigger opportunity, and you probably have, by selling this commercial property, you can move to a much faster or a bigger asset. But my point here is that you would not sell a commercial property simply because it's not performing. That is going to be not the case, which is why commercial property is so lucrative in today. Like it has way more opportunities than residential property. In residential property right now, if you buy, it is going to be a negative cash flow property. In few years time, yes, you can get growth and you can argue that yeah, it is going to go up double, triple, 4 times. Even though the growth happens, there is no way you can tap into that growth other than refinancing, because that growth is just paper money. And because it is paper money, if you sell, then you need to pay the capital gain tax discount. If you do not sell, then you need to keep on holding, means land tax, management fees, insurance, all these costs that you need to pay, which will remain negative cash flow. So either way, if you buy that property, that's first mistake, because you need to pay all these expenses and the cost. On top of it, then it is a negative cash flow. Then the government is interfering in a way that tenant will have more and more benefits. You can say that even though tenants sometimes do not pay, rather than thinking or threatening them and changing the tenant, but you will lose the money anyway. And on top of that, it will keep on remaining negative cash flow. But then if you want to sell that property, then you are even trouble, because now government wants that 50% capital gain, that tax of the marginal proportion that you have to pay. So either way, that if you go, residential property is not a lucrative opportunity. Now, the same thing that happen if you have to sell commercial property as well. Like let's say if you buy today and it has gone up to 30, 40, 50%, and then you are selling it 50% capital gain tax discount and all sort of things, then you need to pay. But in commercial property, you do not have to. You will sell that commercial property because you actually believe that there is a better opportunity where you would sell. Just another comparison I like to put. Right now, if you buy, let's say, a $1 million property in residential sector, that $1 million property can give you, let's say, 800 per week rent. So that's about 40,000 in a year. That's 4% gross rent. Now 4% gross rent is after paying all your expenses such as land tax, management fees, council rates, insurance, maintenance. You will be keeping roughly about $25,000 to $28,000. That's about 2.5% net return, assuming it's a fully paid up house. So I'm not putting the loan in the equation here. So 2.5% is something that you are going to get net from the current residential property. As opposed to in a commercial property, the same type of property, $1 million can give you roughly about 7% net return, depends on where you are buying. That means it's almost about 3 times more than the residential property. Now you could argue that in residential property I'll get a more growth than commercial property. But how much? Remember, in residential property, in order to get 10% growth, even though you get 10% growth, 10 plus 2.5% net is 12.5, whereas in commercial property it is already 7% net. So if commercial property gets about 4 or 5%, then it is going to be more than the residential property. So which one would you bet against? 5 or 6% growth in a commercial property versus 10% growth in residential property? I would always argue that commercial property will have more growth than the residential property, particularly the situations that we are in. So if you are investing into residential property, be very mindful of that and ask yourself these questions. And if you believe that yes, this is going to go, then by all means go for it. My goal is to show you that it is not going to go at the same pace as the commercial property, which is why commercial property is way more lucrative right now than the residential property. I hope you find this video helpful. If you like this video, consider subscribing my channel, turn the notification bell on so you get to see more videos like this, and it will also help me to reach out to more people like you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.